Hi, and welcome to the Warrior Moms podcast. I'm your host, Trina Rothman, and joining me tonight is my friend Elise and my other friend, Katie, and my daughter is actually popping in right now to bring me my drink I requested a few minutes ago. Thank you. So tonight we have the ladies of Vintage Hope Boutique, and I love this show. I was very excited about this show because not only are they running a thriving business that's like really great for the community, because I'm a huge fan of small business, but they are, warrior moms. They have their own stories. They have their own, path in life that led them to this. And not only are they selling clothing, but they're producing a community. They're creating a space where people can go. And it's not just buying clothes. It's more than that. It's a culture. It's a community. And I'm so excited to have them on there. And I love how transparent they are about their journeys. And so what I'd like to just say before we get to the show is that this is a live show. So if you have questions, comments, or any other great productive comments to say, go ahead and put it in there. Like, share, comment, create watch parties to help us grow, because this is a grassroots effort. We are warrior moms just trying to do a service for everybody else and make the world a better place than what it was when we woke up this morning. So everybody, please welcome Elise and Katie. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay.
We are so glad to be here.
I'm so happy to have you guys on. So I've never done a format with 3 people all at once. So hopefully we'll figure this out. But yeah. I'm going to start with Elise. Elise, can you go ahead and introduce yourself and then just say a little bit about your background and all that good stuff?
Sure. Well, my name is Elise Rango. Trina, you and I actually went to high school together.
We did.
And so that's how I know Trina, and just via Facebook, social media, reconnected and following your story with your daughter, Scarlett. I don't know. I am a mom. I have 2 kiddos, Nathan, who is 9 and just recently diagnosed with high functioning autism. We're dealing with some sensory processing, ADHD, anxiety. So life is different, some speech communication needing to have help with. So it's been an interesting year. We got our diagnosis in January. So we're very, very new to all of this. I also have a little girl named Olivia. She is 7. I've been married 19 years to my high school sweetheart. His name is James. Katie is my best friend, and she has really paved the way for me, hooking me up with doctors and all sorts of areas in my life. And I'm so thankful to have her, because she's been such a shoulder to cry on, assuring me every step of the way, and don't know how I could do it without you, Katie. But yes, small business owner here in the Richmond area with Katie, and just kind of navigating life. Homeschool mom now due to COVID, and special needs and COVID are definitely interesting. So we are a homeschool family now, and I don't know what else to say. So that's a little bit about me.
I think that's awesome.
I think that was a great synopsis, and you did it quickly, so that's a good thing.
Well, thank you.
Katie, what about you?
Okay, well, quickly is never my strong suit, so I will be as fast as I can.
Same here, I'm a writer, so I get it.
My name is Katie. I also have a little boy. His name is Michael. He is 9 years old now, and he was diagnosed with autism when he was 3. So we have been doing this autism stuff for a little while, and then he was diagnosed with epilepsy just a couple of years ago. So that was a new element added to our situation, to our journey, whatever you want to call it. I love the phrase with autism, with the puzzle piece till all the pieces fit. And epilepsy was a big piece of our puzzle. And so same kind of things, ADHD. We still have a lot of speech issues with Michael, but he is in a really great situation right now with ABA therapy and speech therapy. And we've also joined the ranks of homeschool families as well because of COVID, and just kind of figuring that out as we go. And then I have 2 daughters, identical twin girls, Mary and Maggie, and they are 7. They are for sure Michael's biggest cheerleaders and biggest adversaries. They are siblings, just like any set of typical siblings. And, but they are also his biggest cheerleaders. And it's very cool to watch how they have grown over the years. So I'm also married to my high school sweetheart. When you said that, I was like, that's crazy. We both are. And yes, Elise is my best friend. Could not do any of this without her. And yeah, we own a business together. So we're navigating all sorts of things all the time. Special needs parenting,
homeschooling,
small business owning, homeschooling, and then
friendshipping,
maintain our own sanity. So
yes.
Mental health is a big thing for me. So like that's like 2020 has been like the test of like mental stability and mental health. So I totally did that. Like having to homeschool, having to run a business, having to do all the things, just to do all the things as a mom. And then you add the special needs aspect on top of that, and it just becomes that much harder. And at least it's brand new for you. So it has to be like, you know that like the brain is different in this regard. And so having to, what works for one child obviously is not going to work for another child. Same thing for you, Katie. I know that you're going through that. Like my daughter, we're homeschooling her, and it's for us, it's okay because we don't have more than one child. So to have the one child, we can focus and do all that stuff. But I know it must be hard to go between, 2 children and 3 children and having to make sure that all their needs are met. So how are you guys handling homeschooling?
I taken it day by day, hour by hour. We are like truly homeschooling. Like we got our own curriculum and doing that. Virtual was very difficult for our kids. And so we just especially with running a business too, like needing to kind of be in control of our schedules. And so we just, Elise really, because she has a background in teaching, she basically did all the research and just said, this is the one I think we should do. And I said, great, let's do it. So
and Katie was crazy enough to come along with me. I'm so thankful.
So
we were just figuring it out as we go.
Absolutely.
That's I always say that, like when somebody says to me, they're like, "Oh, Trina, I don't know how you handle, Scarlett being in the hospital. I don't know how you handle all these different things." It's literally minute by minute. I think that's like the special needs mom mantra. It's just minute by minute. Like, and you can have a good day and then a seizure shows up and your whole day has changed. And it's just, you have to take everything minute by minute. And I always, how do you eat an elephant? Bite by bite, like same thing. Like it's just how you have to do it. And so to me, that would be the answer that I would say with homeschooling. And like we got Scarlett's curriculum printed out and we just do it like a little workbook every single day. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that I teach rogue, like I just go rogue and I'm like, well, in addition to this, Mount Rushmore was blah, 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 blah. And so kids like, I don't know like what's Mount Rushmore. So I know that I'm probably not the best for teaching because then I think that I'm like super smart and I know everything. So, so how did
we have to feel that way a little bit right now, right? Like, hey, I can do this. I know everything. I've got it. I'm good.
Yeah. Like I was at one point.
Make it till you make it. My mom said.
Yeah, my daughter at one point, I was just like, you know what you need to learn? Couponing. Let's do it.
There you go. Absolutely.
That is math and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Yes. Great.
So I'm like, yeah, we'll learn ratios by cooking. And so the teacher, like my daughter's probably gonna be like, oh yeah, that's when we use the big red cup, So
no, that's awesome.
That is.
So that's how I do it. I'm a hands-on learner and I figure that's the best way for her. So ladies, how did Vintage Hope Boutique come about?
Well, we were 2 moms on a budget. Basically, we were on a very tight budget and we wanted a way to get clothes and to shop.
We wanted to dress like the cool moms.
Yes. I mean, we were straight up, we had toddlers that were running us ragged at that time. And we were just like, you know what can we do for us? Because now our kids were kind of like at preschool for a few hours during the day. And what can get us kind of what we want as young moms who now kind of had some freedom. And we were like, you know what, number one, it was started off as a t-shirt business. So we started making, the statement tees that were kind of all the rage I think it was just kind of blowing up then.
Mhm.
And it was fairly successful. I think we just had a lot of friends who wanted to support us, and it just slowly transitioned to more of the boutique side. So kind of change of branding, change of name. We realized the boutique side offered more for us relationally wise with women, because that's how we love to style them, help them feel valued and beautiful. And playing with clothes is really, really fun. When we get good clothes in that we really like it's really fun. And it was just a really cool medium on how to reach other women in our area.
Yeah, very much so. I still say this a lot when we talk about how we started, is that I'll always see Elise as the like trendy mom in the preschool parking lot. She was always so cute with her like cute jeans and sneakers and like a t-shirt and a statement necklace. And I would be like, how is it that she can look like that and look so cute? And here I am like rolling out with, like just these kids that I'm dragging with me or whatever. And through our friendship, through growing our t-shirt business that turned into Vintage Hope, like I've kind of found my own style watching Elise like kind of teach me how to put stuff together. And so it's very much kind of like morphed into now we do that on a larger scale. And it's really, really cool. And truly, that's what we love the most, is getting to know the women that shop with us and help them, feel good in what they're wearing, kind of the way she did with me. So
that's awesome. No, I love that, because I get, I watch y'all's lives sometimes. I always try to, like, if I can, pop, like if I see somebody's on live, I try to pop on to support them, because I know every like and every view counts.
Sure.
So if you're looking at it from a business standpoint, the analytics matter. And so I love y'all's lives. They're the cutest thing. It's like, it's just like a little like daytime show for me. And you guys are so like, I love it. It's like, Elise, you'll start to say something, and then Katie, you'll come up and finish the sentence. And it's just like, and then like Elise walks off screen, and it's cute. And so it's very entertaining. And you guys have such great style that, like, seriously, like I love it. And so I always tell my husband, I'm like, when I lose all the weight, I'm going to start shopping there, because I want to look just as cute as you guys. And so, so one of the things that I really like is that you guys, and both of you have tapped on it when you were answering me in this last question, but how you've created a community, like, because you said that you want to style people, you want to be able to have that connection. So that was obviously a conscious decision between the two of you to move forward with that human connection. So when you guys did that, how did that change for your relationship? How did that change for Vintage Hope Boutique? To be able to add the human element, what does that done for you guys?
Well, I mean, do you want to start?
No, go ahead.
Well, I think that, very quickly in starting the boutique side of it, we realized we wanted it to be more than just clothes. Clothes are fun. It offers a good time, but like, we wanted it to mean more. And I think initially it started with being a give back company. That was just part of our heart's desire to do more with what was being given. So we started with being a give back company, and then just really, truly investing in the women that were watching these lives. I think we started one summer like, hey, let's have a live. And, it got us, because we were fully online at that point, or only online at that point, and it got us meeting these women, recognizing them in their profiles. Then they started like reaching out like, hey, how would I style this? So then that kind of morphed a little bit more to then when we opened our brick and mortar in Richmond, it was only going to be for like pickup and I don't know, a few things, whatever. But we had like a line out the door waiting to come. And we realized this was a great opportunity to like have women come in, love on them, get to know them, because that just makes it so much more. Clothes can only go so far, but like loving people, being compassionate, that's where it is. We have women who message us privately, asking for prayer. telling us about their struggles. And we have we had couches before COVID. Now it is just one couch, and it's not used often because, things are different now. But we used to have couches filled with women during events, making connections and making friendships, crying at times, prayer going on. Like, that's where it's at. And I struggle with meeting women. I struggle with meeting people. And so it's definitely a step out of my comfort zone to be vulnerable to people that I don't know very well. But the Lord has definitely placed those situations in my path for a reason. And I try to be honoring to that. And it's just made for some great relationships with these ladies. And they're not just customers. They're legit friends. And a handful of them, maybe even more than a handful, we could message at a moment's notice if we needed help personally, so that's been really, really cool.
That's awesome. I love that. I love it. And Katie, did you want to add to that?
I think Elise just covered it. I mean, I think a big part of it is I have to say the other piece of this is we just decided that we were going to be real, we weren't going to act like we had it all together. And we're honest about literally everything, probably to a fault, but
in our group we are.
Yeah. But what we've found is that we have a pretty cool platform and a pretty cool community, and that when we open up about stuff, it makes it feel like a safe place for other people to open up about stuff. And the amount of messages, you mentioned mental health, like we're really honest about mental health, and the messages we get are incredible. And like, that's what it's all about. Like, sure, shop. I mean, of course, like, do we value people shopping with us? Of course, because we are a business. But like those messages that we get that are like, I'm struggling with anxiety to a point where it's making life really difficult. And because of what y'all talked about and being honest about it, I don't feel so scared anymore. Like, whoa, like that's real. That's stuff that like, you just can't make that up. You know what I mean? Like being real with people and being authentic and like having that connection, like it's unbelievable. And people have been that for us. And so it's like, if we have to give that back, there's no way we couldn't. So,
right.
And that's exactly why Unsocially Acceptable exists. That's why I do what I do, because I have that ability to lean into my vulnerability, even though I am definitely experiencing the feelings of shame and all that, but I'm leaning into my vulnerability, expressing myself. So that way the people who aren't able to do that today can, have that feeling that they're not alone, and that they can in the future maybe lean into their own vulnerability and be that person for somebody else. And so that's what I really like about this. And Katie, you got to my next question ahead of me, which is you guys recently were on KHOU, right? It was KHOU. You were featured for mental health. We're very open about that. So let's talk a little bit about that, because again, Unsocially Acceptable really does focus on mental health and being your authentic self. And so Katie, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we were blown away by that piece on KHOU. It was actually Elise, a customer of ours, actually reached out to us and said, "Hey, KHOU is looking for people that would be willing to share their story." And we just said, "Sure, we'd be open to it." And they interviewed it, and we couldn't believe the piece. We were blown away when it aired. We were blown away by the whole deal. But yeah, we are super honest about our mental health. Both Elise and I see a counselor. Not to say we both each see counselors separately. And it has been, I can only speak for myself. I've always battled anxiety, probably since I was in high school. And after I had kids, depression really was a big part of my life. And I had really, truthfully, I had resigned myself to thinking that I was just going to be clinically depressed and on medication for the rest of my life. And last summer, I reached kind of my breaking point, and I had a mental breakdown that ultimately put me in a situation where I was hospitalized. And that's something that you don't just say to people, but with Vintage Hope and with who I am, like I couldn't keep that a secret. I had to be honest about it. And so literally we've been honest about it at Vintage Hope since the day I got out. I was honest about like, hey, this is where I've been the last 6 days. And it's been one hell of a ride, like, and not easy, but I am the first one, to say like, or I'll be the first one to say like, hey, I went through this, and yeah, it was horrible, but I'm here now over a year and a half later.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what I've done here. Here is counseling. Here are the things I have done to get to where I am now. And I won't ever hide from that, because I can't. Like I think I don't know how to, honestly. I don't, because if anyone can find just a tiny bit of bravery, or when you're at that low point, if they can hear my story and go, okay, she's telling the truth, I can just have that 1 ounce of bravery, or bravery is the wrong word. I'm probably saying that incorrect, but like just knowing you're not alone for 1 second, enough to be able to say it, to reach out, to ask for help, or to take that next step. Like there's just no way I could keep that to myself. And with Vintage Hope and the platform that we have, like it's such a gift to be able to share this, like you're saying, this thing that is really shameful, but I'm going to keep sharing about it, because if it helps one person, like, then it's worth it, So
Yes.
I don't know. Did that make any sense?
It did. I understood it. Like, and Elise understood it. So we're good to go. Like we don't, I mean, I get it, because I too battle with clinical depression and anxiety. And I remember when my parents took me to a doctor when I was younger, they were like, oh, she just likes to worry. It's a thing. Like, it's not, like, that wasn't the best way to learn a coping mechanism that I could, like, if we would have got the right coping mechanism when I was like 12, I might have better coping mechanisms as an adult. But as it is right now, like I have to relearn habits. Like I'm not, like, again, this is shameful, because, I've talked to, like, leading into shame. I am overweight. And so I've battled with my weight for like my entire adulthood. And I've gone from like very big to not so big. And it's all through coping mechanisms. It's bad coping mechanisms. And so I had to finally like sit back, because, I am a life coach. I am a business coach. And then I turn around and be like, let me go eat my feelings in the other room. And I'm just like, well, why am I doing that? Like I should, like, there's health coaches out there. I should take some of my own advice and go and get myself help, the help that I need. And so, with that being said, I've lost 30 pounds in the last few months. So that's the great thing, to have that emotional support. And then also I see a therapist, but she's in my phone as the rapist, because it makes me laugh. But, and so anyway, so I also see a therapist for the other mental health issues that I have. And I'm sure she saw me say, like, she realized that she was on my phone that way. Like, she would just be like, what?
She's like, we're going to need to talk about this.
Right. She's like, well, yeah, exactly. Well, I just kind of look at it like, she's out there like forcing me to do things that I don't want to do. Like, she's like forcing me to like acknowledge that I'm like this person with mental health issues. And so she's like, anyway, she's great, and she's helping me, and she would, sometimes you have to be forward with that, because some people might think that seeing a therapist is shameful. Some people think that admitting that you're overweight is shameful, and that you should hide that. You should wear the clothes that don't accentuate the curves that you have, and you shouldn't love yourself in that body, and you should strive to be thin again, but do it behind closed doors, because nobody wants to hear that. No, people need to hear that, and that's why acceptable exists. And that's another reason why I love what you guys do, because you see what I see. And of course, we always like it when people see what you see. But you guys see what I see, that the world needs vulnerability. The world needs people to lean into their hard times and say, hey, guys, my problem's not unique. It is not. And so
Yeah.
like, and a lot of people feel that they're like, oh, depression is unique to me. No, depression is not unique to you. Depression exists in 2020 is like the spokesperson for depression. Like if I were to be like, let's look up 2020 in the dictionary, it'd just be like 2020 is like, so
depression.
It's a terrible thing. So that's why I love y'all's platform so much. Now, just circling back to being special needs moms, warrior moms is what we call them on the show, obviously, for that's the name of the show. But so, Elise, you're new to it, but Katie, you're not, and that's the way it is, right? So having that type of support is amazing. And we actually offer in the Warrior Moms community, we offer a mentorship program for those who are newly diagnosed to partner with people who have been there, done that.
Oh my God.
You can just be like, well, like my daughter has epilepsy. Well, I'm looking for what's an epileptologist is like the number one question. An epileptologist. So Elise, having your friend Katie there to help you through this is fantastic. And
absolutely.
Really, but what I want to talk about now is, because we have a lot of newly diagnosed people that are in the Warrior Moms community and that are watching this show right now or on replay. What has it been like for you as a mom? What were the early warning signs that, or not warning signs, but what were the signs that made you go, something's not quite right? And so what was the early stages of your diagnosis like?
I'm sorry, me or Katie?
Elise.
Okay. Well, it actually started a year ago this month. Now, when Nathan was a toddler, I knew he was hyperactive for sure, hands down. I knew at 2 that his motor was not typical. His pediatrician at the time said, "Oh, you have a busy boy," and I was like, "Yeah." And I had basically an infant at the same time, and I was breaking. I asked for a diagnosis with ADHD and he refused. And Katie, actually, we've been together for a long time. Katie actually was like, no, you need a doctor that trusts a mom's intuition. You need to see this doctor. And I did. She gave us the paperwork. She listened to me, gave me the paperwork. I filled it out and he was like diagnosed the next week. Like mom tuition is hands down for sure. We also Nathan has health issues. A week after birth, he had to have his first surgery. For the first 26, 28 months of life, he was on a daily antibiotic to make sure he didn't get a kidney or bladder infection. After that, then he had chronic fluid in his ears, which caused him to lose hearing as a toddler. And I remember his preschool teacher said, "Oh, he sounds like a little boy who can't hear." And my first reaction was rude. Like, how dare you? And then I was like, hold up, wait a second though. She might be right. And so I took him and sure enough, he had chronic fluid in his ears and he couldn't hear anything. So then it was his first round of ear tubes. Retraining him. That was when he first started speech therapy to get the correct sounds and mouth placement for words. So fast forward to October of last year, Halloween time, he all of a sudden became deathly afraid of clowns. Deathly afraid of clowns. It was a constant battle of sleep, nightmares, anxiety, which started then like picking of fingers, destroying of hemlines in his t-shirts, picking holes in his shirt. And then I had a parent-teacher conference and he started, failing English language arts poetry. It's because abstract thought was difficult for him. He is very black or white, very literal. So if you say a rock is like a something in the whatever, he'll be like, no, a rock is just a rock. Just that he didn't have the ability to think like that at this time. Very literal. So what came out in conversation seemed very, very mean. The words that he was saying were not wrong, but it's just, those are type of words that we should keep to ourselves. So couldn't go trick-or-treating last year. Sleep horrible sleep regression. Katie being so kind with all that she's experiencing. She never tries to like push anything on me or her observations, but she knows a lot. And we're very, very honest with each other. And she's like, you might want to, we were already seeing a neurologist for sleep issues. So she's like, maybe talk to him. There might be something going on. And I did. And the doctor immediately, asked Nathan to leave the room. He could just tell I needed to talk to him, asked him to leave the room. I was able to say, hey, do you think my son has autism? And he's like, it's likely, the things that you're telling me, just like that. And he reminded me, and I will always cry, he reminded me that the world needs someone like Nathan. So, because I think we're going to be told, your child is hard, your child doesn't fit in, but he said the world needs someone like Nathan. And we started the process. We actually got our unofficial diagnosis in December. It took a month for our official diagnosis in January. It was like January 13th, the day after my birthday. And I remember just this flood of relief and then a flood of, what the hell? We now have a diagnosis, and what does this mean? And I remember calling you, Katie, and just sobbing because while it answered so many questions, it's like this burden. You don't know what to do with it. Then you think, my kid in the future, like, what does this mean? Then I called a friend of ours who is a diagnostician, and let her know. She's a personal friend of ours. And immediately she also, confirmed, Nathan, there's nothing wrong. This is okay. This is not the end of the world. Y'all are going to be okay. We're going to be with you every step of the way. All of this. So we got the diagnosis, and where it started was a long list of things that needed to have therapy for, recommendations, checking insurance, asking friends, this one has not steered me wrong yet. So I was like, where do you go? Who do I need to call? And I got on a list for speech and OT, started that conversational speech. He fights me every time. He hates going, but I see a change, and I'm sorry, but we're going to go. And then it turned into speech and OT virtually because then COVID hit. And with our schedule being completely thrown off, fully thrown into virtual, I officially had a child with autism in my eyes. There was no way of communicating with him at that point. He was either so withdrawn or outbursting. He couldn't ride in a car anymore. And this was a kid that was in jujitsu and in taekwondo, and we went everywhere. Our schedule was he was in Boy Scouts. Like, we went everywhere. And then it got to a point where he couldn't get into the car anymore. And so then it started basically having to help him identify his feelings because he was overgeneralizing. And just working with our speech therapist twice a week for 30 minutes virtually, she got us through. And, it's crazy. It just is, it's all so overwhelming, but it is truly just one step at a time, literally one step at a time, one referral, one doctor's appointment, one therapy session, one this, one that, repeat over and over and over again. And eventually now we're a year, official diagnosis in January, but we're a year to when all the symptoms started. And, which has been, I'm a little bit on pins and needles waiting to see, how our neighbors decorate for Halloween, because that's what set it off, this fear. And whoa, he now will be like, I have autism, having that conversation with your child is hard too. Olivia, God definitely knew what he was doing, placing Nathan and Olivia together, because not only is she so strong that blunt comments, they hurt, but she's okay. but then she is so fiercely loving of him that even when he does hurt her unintentionally, she just loves him so much. And like having like trying to help her little brain and her heart process that is wow. You know, that's a lot for a 7-year-old, because I know as a almost 38-year-old, it's a lot for me, you know. Speaking of mental health, once COVID hit, autism, a child I didn't recognize, virtual schooling, all of this, I couldn't handle life anymore the way it looked because I didn't recognize any of it. And that's when I started seeing a counselor weekly since April. And it's been so hard, like you say, Trina, so hard. And I have to dig deep and look at things that I don't want to look at and handle things I don't want to handle, because avoidance and not being mindful in situations are a comfort, but they're also detrimental too. And I'm finding all of that out also. So this whole year has been just so unlike anything, but our journey started with just a complete regression, massive anxiety, and a friend stepping out boldly and saying, hey, maybe, you know, and it's okay if so. So that's where we started.
That's awesome. I mean, not awesome, but it's awesome that you have that friend. And, you know, I always say that Ade got me through everything when Scarlett first started to have her seizures. To have somebody there that has been there and done it and will walk the road with you is everything. And that's another reason why the Warrior Moms community exists. Now, Katie, your son also is autistic, but this is the comorbid to epilepsy, correct?
Yeah.
So can you explain a little bit about your journey with your son?
Sure. Michael hit all of his milestones up until 18 months. And then at our 18-month appointment, I was pregnant with twin girls, and it was a high-risk pregnancy. And so at that appointment, his speech started falling off. Like, he had hit every milestone, like I said, physically and like mentally, verbally, all the things. And then at this appointment, he was 2 words short. And I remember calling my husband in the appointment saying, come on, you got to give me 2 more words. You got to give me 2 more words. What? I know he's got 2 more. Does, you know, and we couldn't come up with them. And that kind of set things in motion. But I was also pregnant with a high-risk pregnancy and was quickly put on bed rest. And so it wasn't, and another 6 months went by. I had my girls, they were in the NICU. So that was a little bit longer too. But at 24 months, I couldn't ignore it anymore, but I wasn't ignoring it. I just was on bed rest and then having newborns. But at 24 months, we started therapy. We started speech therapy at that point. And through the course of speech therapy and through the course of that first year, starting to find therapists that we trust. And then really it was one therapist at the school, actually. When Michael turned 3, he was eligible for services at our school district. And so we were doing private therapy, and then we started including the additional services that we could get through the school. And at that point, one of our most beloved therapists, after working with him for a few months, she came with us and said, I think we need to evaluate him for autism. And that was a devastating moment for me. We had some things happen through the course of therapy where we had some therapists that just didn't mesh really well with us, and that were very quick to make judgments on Michael, on my son, that made me feel like, kind of like Elise was, alluding to, like, instead of the, like, I see this in your son and I want to help you, the world needs more of this. It was like, ooh, that's a problem behavior. Let's put a label on it, was kind of the vibe I got. So admittedly, I started to put big walls up to anyone that I felt like didn't have my son's best interest at heart. But thankfully, these exact perfect therapists came into our lives at the right exact moments to be able to love on my kid and love on me as a scared new mom and able to lead, guide us and take us through those processes. And so Michael was diagnosed shortly. He was diagnosed when he was 3. We got into, started that whole deal where he was in PBCD, he was in therapy, he was in everything. But something just never fit. There were pieces of Michael's autism that just never fit, that it was just not quite there. Just wasn't quite, I mean, yeah, people would tell me things and I'd say, well, he does that, but not like this, or he does that, but it's kind of like this. It just didn't fit. And something always felt like it was missing. Well, through other special needs moms saying, you got to go to a neurologist, you got to go to a neurologist. So we finally did that. And so this was, Michael was still 3 going on 4. And we went and saw our neurologist and medical history and all the things. And our neurologist is real big on mother's intuition. And after our very first appointment, he looked at my husband and I and he said, I know this is going to sound off the wall, but I think your son is having seizures. And we thought, no, like, there's no way. Well, sure enough, we did a 60-minute EEG. And on a 60-minute EEG for this solid 60 minutes, our neurologist said that if he didn't have the video feed to go with it, he would say, just by looking at the EEG, that this child's having a grand mal seizure for 60 minutes. And Michael was functioning. But so physically, from what we could see, he was fine. But on the inside, his brain was totally whacked out. And we then we did the next one, the 36-hour, and then the 72-hour. And sure enough, his brain, in one specific portion of his brain, in his parietal lobe, he was seizing. It was showing grand mal level seizure activity from an electrographic level the whole time. So we then actually the seizure activity was so localized that we got sent for an MRI like immediately. Like, we've got to make sure nothing's in there causing it. Okay. It was fine. So then we shortly after that started him on seizure anticonvulsants, and within a few months, his speech improved so much that our therapist said that the progress he had made in those 3 months should have taken him a year. So we did that for a couple of years, and then he had his first, but we were always told, we never could, we had never witnessed a seizure. But we were always told, be prepared. It's not if, it's when. Because if he's having this level of activity in his brain, it's going to progress. And sure enough, a few summers ago, he had his first seizure while he was at therapy. And thank goodness it was with people we trust and we love. And they took such good care of him. And we received our official epilepsy diagnosis shortly after that. And it explained. It was another one of those moments where, like, you get these diagnoses and you're like, you just feel like your life has been, like, what is this? But at the same time, it was also such an answer, because for the first few years, Michael is autistic, clearly, but there were just pieces that didn't fit. And when we got the epilepsy diagnosis and we learned about what was happening in his brain, and how and what part of his brain it was affecting, and how clearly his own, the areas of his life where he has the most delays, it was totally answered by the area of his brain that was having seizure activity. And so finally everything, while we hated it and it was devastating, and I cried the day we got a diagnosis and I cried the day we got the epilepsy diagnosis. I've cried a lot more than those days, but I definitely cried on those 2 days. But yet it answered so many questions that I couldn't explain before. So did that answer your question?
It did. Yeah. No, it's so interesting to me. And I don't mean that in a bad way, because so many people don't realize that autism and epilepsy can
Yes.
be comorbid. And so we had somebody on the show a few weeks, probably was more like a couple of months ago. Her name is Terry, and she runs A Hug Foundation, which stands for Autism Helping You Grow. And but her son isn't comorbid to epilepsy. He just has autism. So I haven't had anybody. I've been wanting somebody to come on here and talk about this because I haven't met anybody else that I know. Like, I mean, I probably could have done a search for it, in one of these groups, but I wanted to have somebody that I know to come on here and explain what this is. And for you to say that it's a missing puzzle piece into the puzzle of autism, it does make a lot of sense. And I look back at my daughter when she got her epilepsy diagnosis, and they were like, "Oh, did you notice this? And did you notice that?" And I'm like, well, yeah, but I had reasons to explain it away. And so, so to hear, like, it again, my situation isn't unique. You have the same thing where you were like, this is, these little pieces of the puzzle don't fit. But now that you're looking back, you can go and say, oh my gosh, yeah, that matches that. And this behavior matches this situation. And so I want other parents to realize that, again, it is unique. Epilepsy is never the same in any person. Autism is never the same in any person. But the parents all go through very similar struggles.
Oh, I think
and so that's it's very different for the child, but for the parents, it's almost all the same. And so I want people to realize that, like, your situation isn't technically unique, and you shouldn't have to go through it alone, because you have a community of people who have done it and been there, done it, and want to help you through it, want to love you through it. And Elise, you're so lucky to have Katie, and I was so lucky to have my friend, and I still have her. She's not gone. And so, and I want other parents to realize that they are not alone. And so, how's your son doing now? How's the epilepsy? Is it controlled, or is it still?
Yes, it's very controlled. At least right now, I should never say that out loud.
I know.
It is. It's at the moment it is controlled. He maybe had, I want to say his last seizure was a few weeks ago, and we haven't had one since. So, I'm like hesitant to say that. I've had, and even his therapist called me today and asked a question about his medication, and I made a comment like, "Oh, yeah, we haven't had to use that." I'm like, "Oh, I got to stop saying these things." But but yeah, right now we're in a good place right now.
I completely understand. My husband and I, because like I'm like superstitious, and I was like, we got to think about this now, because our daughter was in the hospital in December, and I was like, I want to celebrate. If we get seizure freedom, I want to celebrate it. Like, I know a lot of people don't want to put the bad juju on it, but like anytime we reach a milestone, like, I want to celebrate it. And so, my daughter, she's 9.5 months seizure free right now. And so that's a big, big deal, because we never thought we would have seizure freedom. My daughter's at a genetic level that epilepsy it's never like you said, it's a matter of when, not if. And so, for her, it's very much at a genetic level. And so we know that seizure freedom may not be something that we have every single day to celebrate. So I want to celebrate it. So does your son have tonic-clonics, or does he have a different form of seizure? Because there's over 40 different kinds.
I know. I'm probably like the worst epilepsy mom there ever was. So he just, I think they're called drop seizures. Where he'll just like, if he's like it happened one time when he was walking upstairs and he fell downstairs. So like, but most of the time it happens when he's sitting and he just kind of, or it'll happen in the car and he just falls asleep and I just have to, or he, he's out and I'll just have to get him into his bed, and he's not a small child. And so that's, like not always the easiest, but that particular situation hasn't happened in a long time. So
that's good. That is really good.
Yeah, very good.
That is awesome. Yeah. So, let's see. I'm going to go through my notes, because I do this. I write notes on like multiple pages, because then I'm like, oh, I'll just fill in the blanks.
No, I love
it. Okay. Oh, okay. So you talked about finding a doctor that trusts mom tuition.
Yeah.
And so I agree with that. Like because as a mom who had mom tuition and all that stuff, like, I get it. But Katie, when you're talking about mom tuition, what was some of the mom tuition that you went through? Like where in your heart did you feel that like you as a mom know your child better than a doctor? Because a lot of parents think they have to follow what the doctor says. And that's always one of my biggest
Yeah.
pieces of advice. Like, hey, you're their advocate. Like you can say no, you're the mom. So go ahead.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't have a lot of confidence in it until actually our doctor, he was asking me questions and I kept saying, well, our therapist says this, our therapist says this. And he literally stopped me and he goes, no, you're not listening to me. That'll come. I will get a report from them. I want to know what you think about your child. And I just remember breaking down and crying and saying, I know something is wrong. I know that, but it's not adding up. You know, all of these things that they're saying make him autistic. He meets it here, there, and every, you know, it just, something wasn't right. Something didn't add up. And so I kept going with it. And while I struggled with it, you know, we moved forward and we got the autism diagnosis. We did the therapies, but I'd say where my intuition really kicked in and where I didn't stop was, okay, yes, he has autism. Yes, we're doing this, but something still isn't right. We are missing something. And we were missing the epilepsy piece. And the other one that I think really that I remember clearly is I kept, in all the evaluations, I kept saying, he's shy. Michael is shy. He is a shy kid. And everyone just kept telling me, that's not shy. He's just autistic. He doesn't know how to be shy. He's just autistic. Well, and those kinds of things made me put my guard up because I was like, no, but he's shy. And sure enough, our favorite therapist, who I love so much, after a few months of working with him, was like, Katie, he's shy. And she was great. She never said any of these things to me, but she did. She came to me and she goes, he's shy. And I said, I know, you know, and, you know, we know our kids, we know, you know, we know these little pieces about them. And yes, there are going to be things, but you know, you got to stick with it because yeah, he was shy, you know?
Yeah.
I always say when someone's like, I'm trying to explain my daughter, because they're like, you know, she has, we think she has some clinical seizures in addition to the seizures that she already has. And so sometimes she has these like emotional outbursts. And I always say my daughter is emotional. Like if nothing was wrong with her, she would be an emotional person. Like she would just be an emotional person. And so now, like I've said that to the doctor, so it's on record that I think she's an emotional person, but these subclinical seizures are emotionally based. And so I'm always like, is this emotion or is this a seizure? Is she, do I need to kill her or do I need to help her? So there's these things that, you know, I'm just like, oh my gosh. So I get that about the shy thing too, because she's an emotional person, but like at the same time, like where's the difference? Like where do you say this is the full scope of, you know, being shy, and this is the full scope of being emotional, but there's a threshold that they cross, and what's different from what's real. So I hope I explained that right to people. I hope people are like, wait, what? They're like trying to draw a timeline. So no, I love that you guys do what you do. And I think that you know, this is just the start for Vintage Hope. Like you guys are building a wonderful community that is, you know, supporting women, that is, you know, leaning into vulnerability, that is out there showing the world that we don't have to be the perfect picture of like, I guess like the Instagram mom. You don't have to be the Instagram mom. And so, exactly. So you can be yourself, you can look fantastic while doing it. And you can lean into your vulnerability and you can help the world make it a better place. And so I love all of that. And I love what you guys do. I'm going to put your website up so that way people can see it. So that way they can go and place any orders. You guys just got some new stuff in too. I saw that. Yes. I haven't had a chance to scope it out, but I know you brought the hats back. And And then I saw those cute little flats, which I didn't have a chance to put them in my cart, but I like leopard print is my power color.
Oh, there you go. That's awesome.
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh,
Yes.
Trina, we're gonna do that and give you credit.
Yeah. So no, anything leopard, like those, one of my friends sells Color Street nails, and anytime those leopard print, I'm like, oh, I want mine.
Yes.
That's
so
fantastic.
Fun.
Yes. So I love what you guys are doing. But we are going to wrap up the show tonight. The website is vintagehopeboutique.com. Elise and Katie, they have a Facebook page where they do their lives. I know they have a group. If you guys send me the link to the group, I can put that in the comments as well. Awesome. I'll also link I'll try to link the KHOU stuff for you guys. So that way anyone who wants to go back can check it out. We are taking a week off next week. Speaking of mental health, like I need a break.
You do it, girl.
Yeah. So Facebook is driving me insane. And so I just need a break. And so we are off next week. And then the following week, we will have Miranda Bennett, who runs the blog Miss Mediocre Mom. And she's going to be talking about postpartum depression. And so again, another mental health thing that, is not a unique situation, but everyone talks about it as it's something that you need to hide and shame from. So Miss Mediocre Mom with Miranda Bennett on the 28th. And then in November, I will actually only have one episode the entire month, and that will be epilepsy awareness, because November is epilepsy awareness month. And I'm still working on that show. But after that, I will take the rest of November off due to the fact that I'm going to have a hysterectomy. And so, it's very much overdue. And what better time to do it than the holidays, when everyone else is focusing on family and I can just lay in bed. So
there you go.
Yeah, so everyone's going to be here, so they can all take care of me. But ladies, thank you so much. I appreciate you so much for making time in your day. And anyone, if you would like to order, check out what they have. New stuff arrives all the time, vintagehopeboutique.com. And if you have any questions, go ahead and hashtag replay. And hopefully we'll be able to track those comments and reply back to you guys. I hope everyone has a wonderful Wednesday. Thank you so much. Everyone, have a wonderful night, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.